In the Supreme Court of Appeal, which is determining the legality of the tribunal into misconduct charges against Western Cape Judge President Judge Hlophe. The inquiry looked into whether Hlophe tried to unduly influence Constitutional Court Justices Bess Nkabinde and Jafta in a case relating to President Jacob Zuma. This is the third time the matter relating to the misconduct charges against Judge President John Hlophe is at the Supreme Court of Appeal. But to find out more, let's get some information from Aldrin Sampear. He's in Bloemfontein. He was in court yesterday. Aldrin, thanks so much for being with us again. Talk us through the events that happened yesterday.
Well, good morning, Leanne. Well, yesterday the court sat down for about an hour and a half, looking into the arguments set out by the two justices, Bess Nkabinde as well as Jafta. One of the issues that they raise is around the constitutionality of the inquiry or the tribunal, and they say that the tribunal has not been set up properly because there is no formal statement. Remember that after the new Amendment Act of 2010 came in, it says that there should be a formal complaint or statement rather under oath stating what the complaint is. And unfortunately, with this case relating to Judge President John Hlophe, there is no such statement. And the justices really went at length cross-questioning Lokota, who's representing the two justices, and the argument they represent is that you can't say that a complaint falls away because there is a new law that came into effect. And he did concede that actually, yes, there is a complaint, but that complaint is not under the new act. The other issue was around the prosecutor being the leading evidence in the matter, and the argument that Bess Nkabinde and Jafta were leading there was that you can't have a prosecutor sit in on a tribunal that looks into the removal of a judge. You must have the president must be involved, the National Assembly must be involved, as well as the JSC, and not an advocate. While the justices also cross-questioning Lokota, they're arguing that, but why wouldn't you want to have a prosecutor there? Because even under the old act says that an attorney can be appointed to lead evidence. The old act doesn't say who or where that attorney must be drawn from. We basically, I suppose, need to look at the significance of this for us. Why is it a significant case? Well, this is a significant case in terms of having justices judging judges. That's the other argument about this case. And with this one, you have Constitutional Court justices involved, and now you have the judges from the Supreme Court of Appeal and the Western Cape Judge President. So these are very senior judges within the judicial system. And now we have the other argument with whether this case will go to the Constitutional Court. And remember that we have many Constitutional Court judges that are involved in this case. And remember, back in 2008, it was the Constitutional Court judges that took this matter to the JSE, the full bench of the Constitutional Court justices, back then headed by Chief Justice Pius Langa, as well as his deputy Dikgang Moseneke. So this is a case of judges judging judges and upholding the integrity of the commission. And something else that one of the justices raised here yesterday as well is that what is quite clear from the issues raised by then Chief Justice Pius Langa is that they want to make sure that the integrity of the judiciary is upheld. For instance, if you have a case where a judge is accused of taking bribes, what happens in that matter? Does it mean that that matter falls away simply because there is no formal complaint? And they beg to differ on that.
Just finally, we see that the main witnesses, Constitutional Court Justices Bess Nkabinde, Jafta, were scheduled to be these main witnesses in the inquiry looking into whether Hlophe tried to unduly influence them in a case relating to President Jacob Zuma. They have refused to testify. What are their concerns?
Well, the concerns that they raise is around the issue of the tribunal not being set up properly. But then remember, back in 2009, when the initial inquiry was set up, they did testify. Bess Nkabinde said that Judge John Hlophe came to her and asked her about the case and spoke around the issue around privileges. Remember that President Jacob Zuma, as well as his lawyer Michael Hudley's officers were raided. There was a search and seizure operation investigation where now some 93,000 documents were taken from their offices, and this case related to the arms deal investigation with regards to the company Tint, which was also involved in the arms deal. And the other argument that Bess Nkabinde and Chris Jafta are raising is, of course, the issue around the prosecutor. Chris Jafta also indicating during the first or the initial inquiry how Judge John Hlophe approached him and spoke about the case. But back then, they indicated that they do not want to lay a formal complaint. They do not want to lay a complaint, and they don't see any prospects of success with regards to this case. And I was speaking to a lawyer on Sunday, just ahead of the case, asking about this issue. And he said that the problem now is that you have two main witnesses who are not willing to testify. One can only wonder if there will be any credibility to the testimonies that they will give if eventually they are subpoenaed to testify.
All right, let's leave it there. Aldrin Sampear, thank you very much in Bloemfontein this morning, talking to us about what happened in the Supreme Court of Appeal yesterday.